and welcome again to Jesus Christ Prison Ministry, JCPM Studio, another Bible topic, Jesus as Son. You know, there is a question that we ought to ask if we haven't. Maybe many of you have asked. Why do we call Jesus Son? It's easy to go around saying Jesus is Son, He's the Son of God, etc., etc. But what does that really mean to be Son of God? After all, you and I are considered sons of God in the Bible. Was Jesus any different? In our last topic, we did a study on who Jesus was. He was God. Well, how can God have a son? This is most interesting. In order to have a son, in our human way of thinking, that person must have come into existence at some point in time in history. He must have had a birth. So we ask ourselves, what does it mean, Son of God? John 3:16. Many of you know this text. It's a wonderful text. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. What an awesome concept. God gave his Son for us, that we would not have to experience everlasting death, but instead everlasting life. With the understanding of God that we learned in our last lesson, faith in God, we learned that God is not a person. God is a title, just like a last name. God being a title makes perfect sense when we understand Jesus as Son of God. For example, last week we learned that people in the California prison system have a title of inmate, but not all 150,000 inmates are one. They're individuals with the inmate title. We learned that God is a title, and there are 3 individuals with the God title. Now that makes more sense to understand what the Son of God or Jesus as Son means. A title can have a quality. For example, President of the United States. In that title, there's a presumption of quality, of leadership, and of the ability to have moral strength. Now, let's take a look at that quality in the title President of the United States. A person with the title President of the United States may not like to send soldiers into battle because of his personal desire not to have anybody killed. However, as President of the United States, carrying the title President means that he has an obligation to protect the United States of America, and to do that at times, the title President of the United States may compel him to send men and women into harm's way in battle. So a title can have qualities that can be put onto individuals. God is the same way. The title God represents many, many qualities. There are attributes that go with the God title. There's love, mercy, justice, grace. We've all heard these wonderful concepts, these attributes. The God title is the epitome of these attributes. It was that attribute, love, that propelled Jesus to come to this earth to become a Son of God. How did he do that? When sin entered the world, the three individuals with the God title were brokenhearted. They could see the damage, the destruction, the hurt, the pain that sin would cause us. And because they had the God title, the attributes of love, they had to step in and do something about it. There was an emergency, there was a crisis, there was actually a battle now going on, and they had to enter that battle. The attribute of love compelled Jesus to enter the battle that was now taking place for the souls of you and me. To illustrate this, a person may see a child being abused, but because it's not his child, he may not do anything about it. He may just go on his way. However, if a person with the title parent seeing a child being abused will probably do something about it. Why? Well, it's the attribute that the title parent gives that person. They understand better than others without the parent title. So it is with God. He is our Father. The God title compelled the three individuals who hold that title to act in our behalf. So what do we do with the title Son of God? How did Jesus come into existence when he has been forever? Some use the concept Son of God to express the idea that Jesus came into existence when he was born. However, that goes against everything the Bible teaches. In Micah, when we go back to the little book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2, we read, "But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times." Jesus, who this text is referring to, has always existed. He is the beginning and the end. He has always existed. He has the God title. And God never ceased to exist. God has always been. So the three individuals with the God title have the attribute of having continuously been in existence. This is important. In Revelation, we read where Jesus says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, who is, who was, who is to come." He is the Alpha, he is the beginning, and he is the Omega, the end. Some claim that since Jesus says that he is the Omega, or the beginning, that he had a beginning. But that would also suppose that because it says he is the beginning and the end, that he will have an end. And that's not possible. God does not have a beginning, nor does he have an end. The concept here is forever. God is forever. Always has been, always will be. So what do we do with the concept Son of God? My friends, this is an awesome concept. Do you realize that one with the God title, he loved us so much? You know what he did? He decided that he was going to take on humanity. Jesus Christ became human, took on man's nature. He went through the birth process in order to redeem us from sin. This is very important. No other person who holds the title God went through the birth process. Jesus and Jesus only took that responsibility upon himself for our salvation. That's an awesome concept. My heart just breaks when I think of the sacrifice that Jesus went through for me. He gave up his total godness, you might say, in order to meld, to bring together God and humanity. In one person with the God title, he now not only becomes the Son of God, he now can truly claim to be the Son of Man. He went through the birth process to become what you and I must go through in our lives. From birth to death, my God experienced everything you and I have to go through in order to teach us how to live and to set us an example that we can also follow. He who is from everlasting to everlasting simply altered his state of existence. The God title became a tiny, tiny little seed implanted in the woman and grew to be Jesus Christ. Jesus, the holder of the God title, took on human flesh and blood. In Hebrews we read, "For this reason he had to be made like his brothers in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest." Jesus had to become flesh and blood. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might destroy him who holds the power of death. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is also able to help those who are being tempted. One of the people, one of the persons holding the God title, had to experience humanity. There was no way he could command us to live perfectly and holy without sin, without going through the same process and understanding how to do that. We must understand that Jesus is the Son of God because he took upon himself the right to be a son by going through the birth process. He became a Son of Man because he took on man's nature. He was born into flesh and blood so that he could teach us how to live the perfect, righteous, and holy life. Again, we're told in Hebrews, the author of our salvation was perfected through suffering. It is the only way we can get to heaven, by following the Son of God in his example of being perfect in our lives as Jesus was perfect in his. It is through the bonding, the coming together of the divine with the human, that we have the opportunity of becoming closer to God than even Adam was. This is an awesome concept, folks. However, many people will say that's not possible because God is a spirit. As we learned in our last lesson, God is simply a title. It's just words. It's just letters. What does it mean that God is spirit? Let us turn to that verse and find out. John 4:24. God is spirit. See, they say, God is a spirit. He doesn't have flesh and blood. Well, the problem with most people is they only read those portions of text that agree with them, but they leave off the rest of the puzzle. You must always put the puzzle together. Let's read what it says. We find Jesus saying to the woman at the well, "The true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." Do you hear what he's saying? He says there that for you and I to worship God, we must also enter into that same spirituality. Since we have flesh and blood, either we cannot worship God because we're not a spirit, or the context, the sense of this verse simply means that God is spiritual. He is righteous, he is holy, he is perfect, and he wants us to have that same spiritual life. We must worship him in truth, in perfection and holiness. So my God took on humanity, took on flesh and blood in order to teach me how I can live the perfect, righteous, holy life in my flesh and blood. In John 6:63, we have a better understanding of this. Jesus said, "The Spirit gives life. The flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you are spirit, and they are life." Do you understand? What is spirit? Spirit is spiritual. Jesus' words are spiritual. They are those that teach us how to live a righteous spiritual life as Jesus lived. He says, "The words I have spoken to you are spirit, and they are life." Let us obey Jesus at all times. Let us go to his words and learn how we can live the perfect, righteous, and holy life as Jesus lived. Thank you for being with me in this Bible study. Hope to see you for the next one.